And out on the track, coming round on the warm-up lap for the production machine race, all using standard motorcycles on standard tyres, ostensibly just as you can go into the showroom and buy.
You must be impressed, Peter Clifford, because of the way Richard Scott's been going in England this year. He holds the lap record at 1:18, but Michael Dowson, who's taking pole position, broke it with 1:17.3, and therefore will start ahead of Paul Feeney on the Kawasaki. Grant Hodgson, the C grader who went so well last weekend in only 18 months of road racing. David Lucci, that's pronounced. Roger Hayes, Jeff Paul, Hal Hutchison, quite a number of B graders and C graders going very well in that lot.
It's a very good point you make there, Will, because Michael Dowson is dominating this series, and of course Dowson won the Castrol 6-hour race with McGee, and the previous year's winner, as you say, Richard Scott, has come to England this year and had done very, very well, been very impressed. You know, he's impressed everybody in England, and will be going on to greater things, as I'm sure Michael Dowson could do.
Robert Holden riding there with a broken ankle, and Phil Watt has been in Japan this year, and they line up 15, 18, 20 starters already and last away. It's 113 who David Lucci that gets away best. Young man going through the grades very quickly, but into the lead then goes 57 Hal Hutchison.
And all of a sudden down the outside comes the rocket of Michael Dowson on the big Yamaha. He takes over the lead.
And Dowson was very, very slow off the line, actually. Some of the others seemed to jump the start, but it mattered little, because as soon as he got rolling, the power of the 1,000 just blasted everybody else behind him.
Jeff Paul's on 34. On 7 is Robert Holden.
Grant Hodgson on 78 in second position.
26-year-old from Warrandyte. Hodgson, former motocross rider, A grader there, but C grader at the moment, amazingly, in road racing. Only 18 months in the category, going like a rocket. The man that kept Roger Hayes honest last weekend at Surfers.
And another thing that indicates just how important Australian production racing is the fact that the machine has debuted here, the 1000cc FZR Yamaha, and a lot of machines appear in Australia before we see them in Europe. And somebody going very, very wide on the 750 Suzuki there, almost lost the front end completely.
Hodgson.
Oh, and down goes another 750 Suzuki. Into the wall, he's okay.
Well done.
Settles down to become a spectator.
I'm very happy to be one at the moment. Michael Dowson leading from 113 is Lucci.
Oh, Grant Hodgson goes wide once more. His lines seem to be all over the place. He's really got to calm this down.
And some dodgy riding as they all take out after Michael Dowson, who's already opened more than a 2-second gap, 1.5 laps into the event.
But whose pit crews say that the rear tyre on that bike with 130 horsepower pumping through it is good for only 3 laps at its optimum. Let's have a look at this. Castrol corner coming onto the straight. And round and sideways and laying it down very gently.
Unfortunately, impossible to pick out the number of that bike as he slid past us rapidly. 57 was the man, Hal Hutchison.
And Hutchison, in fact, was quite well placed in the series, in 7th place, in fact, on 13 points. Lap 2 down, out on lap 3, Michael Dowson, the lap record already in his care, 1 minute 17.3, 0.7 of a second, under the lap record previously held by Richard Scott.
And a lead of 2.65 seconds to his advantage at this stage. Good stuff for 3rd and 4th place. Grant Hodgson only just stays in the saddle of 78 as he gets the power on too early, trying to chase Robert Holden.
Grant Hodgson, in fact, is currently 2nd in the series on 24 points, timed with Paul Feeney. Let's see him again.
He was offline anyway, and he rescued that pretty well.
And really, the smartest thing that Hodgson can be doing at this stage is consolidating his 2nd place in the series.
This is the battle for second place. As the race leader goes through, braking, a heavy braking for Castrol Corner from 113, Lucci. He's a young man on the way up in B grade, being followed by 7, Robert Holden. Holden's going to give him a determined run for his money too.
Comes down the outside now, passes him. Lucci in third place in the series, or rather fourth place in the series on 20 points.
Suzuki 750 versus Yamaha 750, leading Yamaha 1000.
And we're watching now number 7, Robert Holden, on the Dunlop Shot Action Suzuki. And of course this was the combination which was the fastest combination on the track towards the end of the Castrol 6 hour, and yet they're nowhere near Michael Dowson. It just shows what a quantum leap the FZR 1000 has put into production racing.
Mind you, it'd be interesting to see the FZR over 6 hours and how many rear tyres they'd have to throw at the bike and how much time it would drop in the latter parts of a riding stint.
Yes, a good point, Will, as we worked out at Surface Paradise that normally they'll change 1 rear tyre an hour sort of thing, or 1 rear tyre a session, and they have to sort of throw something like 3 rear tyres at the Yamaha unless the tyre companies come up with some better rubber.
Did you see it sideways there? He was actually opposite locking it in the middle of Castrol Corner there, Michael Dowson.
Robert Holden in second place, David Lucci in third, and Holden opening the gap on Lucci, but you'd have to suggest that there's no way known that he's going to close the gap between himself and Michael Dowson.
Oh, he's got it sliding too.
So that's an interesting tyre war out the front as well, because it's a Pirelli shod bike leading number 7 here, a Dunlop shod bike, then an Avon shod FZ 750 behind.
Motorcycles not nearly as advanced in radial tyre construction as cars are, where it's virtually universal these days and has been for a long time. And so we've got the leading production bike here on MP7 Pirellis, which are radials, but most of the others on cross-ply.
Yes, and even the MP7 are not what we would call a 100% pure radial. They're rather a combination. And there's Dowson leading by a handsome margin from the second place man here, number 7, Robert Holden.
Completing 5 in this 10-lap race, 26.2 kilometres. Robert Holden tucked down and determined. The man who, when he went past Malcolm Campbell on the straight on the Honda 750 during the 6 hour, absolutely reduced the morale of the Tasmanian, who claimed that Holden's bike must have been a hot one. 78 there, as you can see. Grant Hodgson being caught by Trevor Manley, the former Specialised 125cc Grand Prix rider.
Manley getting himself into all kinds of trouble, thought twice about diving inside there. And now he tries to go around the outside, very, very wide. Oh, chopped off again by 78. These guys are showing some interesting lines.
And again, and this time says, I'll take it back. Thanks very much.
Trevor Manley takes a totally unclassic line and but looks across at Hodgson and says, well, I'm going up here to get past you. I don't like the way you're playing. He's now third. And in fact, fourth place, yes.
Hodgson's not giving it up, however, and he charges down under brakes.
These two bikes just about identical both. 750 Suzuki's both getting a little bit loose coming out of the corner there. Be interesting to see whether Hodgson can pick up a slipstream from Manley. A little bit too far behind to do it.
And Michael Dowson's lead is 4.49 seconds.
Yes, it's getting pretty loose and shaky, the pair of them here. Obviously right on the limit.
And behind those three, this is the battle for fourth place. Trevor Manley at the moment, Grant Hodgson, the C grader, challenging him all the way and giving him a very hard time. A young man on the way forward, surely, in road racing.
And Hodgson tried to go up the inside of Manley before the bridge, and in fact made a bit of a mess of it, lost a lot of ground. And Hodgson really's got to collect his thoughts. He's got to think what he's doing, watch where Manley's running a little bit wide, and put some sort of very well thought out lap together, because at the moment Manley's getting away from him.
Still fourth and hanging on well. But Michael Dowson makes very little time in the lead, 4.51 seconds now, pulling out only 200ths of a second in the last lap over second place Robert Holden on the Suzuki 750.
Dowson, of course, giving his Yamaha team some tyre changing practice at Oran Park today, because between the FM production bike series and the Swann Insurance motorcycle series, he changes his tyres from the groove tyres you see on his bike at the moment to slicks.
And it's quite a job for Dowson to bear that in mind. He's out on the motorcycle. It looks exactly the same as it does slick or tread-in tyre. And yet, of course, the amount of grip provided by the treaded road-going tyre is nowhere near the ultimate grip provided by the slick, and he could really get in over his head if he wasn't thinking carefully about what he was doing.
I'm sure he's getting plenty of feel from the bike, and probably the first few laps through some of the faster corners he has to be aware of it. But out now on his 9th lap,
and the bike really weaving around there as he pushes all kinds of braking loads into it.
4.73 seconds. This gap back to second place Robert Holden, the Kiwi, who was tossed off at about 180 kilometres an hour 2 weeks ago at Suzuka, took the cast off his broken ankle himself. And 113, David Lucci is third. This is the battle. Still Trevor Manley dominant over Grant Hodgson for fourth.
And certainly looks as though Hodgson 78 has thought what he's doing. He's put a couple of good laps together, got back onto the tail of Manley.
Wizard Racing not only does the bike preparation and makes leather clothing and runs a milk bar, but does the sign writing as well, and turns out a very nice motorbike. Some real characters actually involved with that. Dean Riggins, a 38-year-old who's been active in the sport. He's been around it for a long while, but only in the last 3 months has he got Wizard Racing going, and he reckons he's onto a good thing with Grant Hodgson.
Oh, and Hodgson gets it loose again.
Hang on to it through there, because there's very nasty terrain down there.
Manley looks over his shoulder to see Hodgson not very far behind.
Dowson doesn't have to look very behind him very much at all. Well under control, but again, lest you think that 130 horsepower and 1,000 cc's makes life easy, it's very hard indeed. He's sliding this bike a lot. He's been down on grip on the rear tyre really since the latter part of, since probably the first 3 or 4 laps, and he's working it very hard, and it's taking a lot of skill to produce the lap times. Enormous power, acceleration, rear wheel that wants to spin every time he opens the throttle, and he's not backing off an inch. Coming up to complete 10 laps for this second heat of round 2 of the FM Challenge Series, and it's victory for Michael Dowson on the FZR 1000 Yamaha. Very convincing one, already a new lap record to him. Robert Holden takes second place on number 7. And third place goes to 113, David Lucci. And then fourth place, Trevor Manley over Grant Hodgson on 78 in 5th. And the race time for Michael Dowson in taking victory over those 10 laps, 13 minutes, 1.96 seconds. 119.5 kilometres an hour, victorious over the 750 Suzuki of Robert Holden, and David Lucci third on 113.
Interesting point score situation. With that win, Michael Dowson moves to a commanding lead now of 60 points in the FM series with 4 straight wins. But second place now is tied between Grant Hodson and Luthji, both on 30 points. So the final series at Calder International in Melbourne next weekend should be a ripper dice between Hodson and Luthji, and an opportunity, of course, for Michael Dowson to pick another lap record up.
Good riding on a most impressive motorcycle. The man who just loved to have the ride, the opportunity that's befallen Kevin McGee. A man only a couple of years younger, but not so much the age that made the difference as the fact that Dowson had done more and had more experience. It was probably felt by his team, there's Glenn Willing looking after the bike, that he was closer to his potential than was Kevin McGee. And look at the crowd that's come here, really delighting in the performance of the Aussie against the Englishman, Rob McElnay. Scattered around the 2.62 kilometre track, plenty of room for spectating, so that there in fact is a very good crowd here indeed, much better than there was for the Castrol 6 Hour, which is unusual because the Castrol 6 Hour always pulls a big crowd, but the Swann series, I think you'd agree, John Smales, since it was started in 1978, has always been a very hard-fought and entertaining series.
Indeed it has. Well, it's had a number of winners over the time. Of course, Wayne Gardner won it on 3 occasions, and the only man, in fact, to win it more than once. So it has been hard-fought indeed.
Michael, this is getting a little monotonous, but did you think that great start David Luthke got that you might have a bit more of a battle this race than previous races?
Well, the only problem I had was the rear tyre on the FZR was a bit soft, and that was giving us trouble, especially this circuit where there's a lot of corners. And yeah, I was pretty concerned because I knew most of those guys are pretty hot production racers, and they've had all season to sort their machines out. So no, we're very happy with the FZR, and it's world debut last weekend, and our second race this weekend. We're all very happy with it.
Yes, as part of this racing program in the FM series, you're also testing it for Yamaha. Is there a conflict of interest there? Do you go out with different settings each race just to find out the potential of the bike?
Well, no, I think all we're doing is virtually trying to get it as good as I feel to be suited to me on the racing track. So I think that I'll just consider the adjustments after that, refine them to their own needs, I suppose.
So it's not going to be a case of you saying one thing about the bike and that's how it will come out on the showroom floor? Not
necessarily, no. It'll be, it's for a domestic market and it's for all over the world, so they've got to suit it to their own riders, I suppose. But I think it's just a part of the program to evaluate it, just see how strong the machine is in production racing form. So I think that point is taken very well.
Well, you seem confident about making it the clean sweep. There's just Calder to go now. How are you feeling?
Well, fine. Calder's going to be a very exciting circuit for the FZR because there's a bit of a jump in it involved. You can do some nice wheel stands of it. So I think we'll all have some fun down there at Calder Park.
All right, have some fun in the final race in the program, the Swann Series. I'll call Janet Brown in, who's Miss Oran Park, to present you with a trophy.
Thanks, Peter.